Welcome to Bedtime FairyFails. I'm Kim. Our first story tonight comes from T. Boyd. In this story, we'll learn how you should never give up no matter the circumstances, even if they're super embarrassing. This is A Birthday Suit Bash. Once upon a time, long, long ago, a group of heroes were doing what heroes do best: questing. They had been sent to hunt someone or something down as per usual, and like most quests, it isn't long before they run into trouble. In our party, we have a dwarf fighter, a half-elf thief, which is basically a rogue, an elf cleric, an elf wizard, a human ranger, and our main character of this tale, a human fighter named Theoboider the Stamped Hand. He got his name due to the number 102 being branded into his hand as a child. Theoboider had been a slave his whole life, and this number was burned into his skin as a way to identify him as such. One day, though, the rest of the heroes happen upon him, rescue him from slavery, and invite him to join their party. Theoboider was a beast of a man, standing at 6'7" and weighing in at 230 pounds. He was definitely a force to be reckoned with. As our heroes are hiking across the land on their way to retrieve something for someone who didn't have the guts to do it themselves, you know how it is, they find themselves unexpectedly surrounded by fire giants. Fire giants are known for their dark, coal-colored skin and fiery red hair and eyes. They often seek out formidable foes to test their own strength against. And boy, did they find it in these guys. They just don't know it yet. The group fights bravely against the giants, but between the surprise attack and their size, the heroes just aren't able to fight them off and are eventually captured. The fire giants strip the heroes of their armor, weapons, gear, and even clothing. They sit each now naked hero down at their own respective trees and bind their arms around the backs of them. Now I know what you're thinking. Kim, you just said they had found formidable foes, but now they've been captured, stripped naked, tied to trees, and we're not really sure where this story is headed. But I'm here to reassure you that if you'll stop asking me so many questions and pausing to check the parental advisory ratings on this episode, I'll tell you the rest of the story and it'll all make sense. It's now dark outside, which is to their advantage. While the fire giants are distracted, Theoboider breaks his restraints and sneaks over to the pile of gear. Just as he's reaching into the pile for a weapon, one of the giants spots him. He grabs the first weapon he feels and pulls it out, hoping that it will be something he was proficient in. And as luck would have it, it is. He pulls out a hand axe, holds it up at the ready, and locks eyes with the fire giant. Let me paint a picture for you. This fire giant has just turned to check on the prisoners and sees a totally nude fighter wielding only a hand axe. The light of their fire behind him casts an orange glow around his silhouette, making him truly a sight to behold. On his face, a look of determination and rage. If that's not intimidating, I'm not sure what is. The giant stares in shock at the majestic, naked fighter as he throws the hand axe at him with all his might. It flies through the air end over end and lands squarely between the giant's eyes, killing him instantly. Theoboider turns and grabs his shield and battle axe from the pile as the rogue who had managed to free himself unties the rest of the party. Everyone runs to the pile, grabs their weapons, and lets out a battle cry as they charge buck naked towards the giants. They fight with all their might, butt cheeks glistening in the firelight. The sound of the battle echoes through the mountains as these involuntary nudists fight valiantly until every last fire giant is dead. The heroes are badly hurt, but victorious. Theoboider is retired now. He lives a quiet life in the country, but anytime he runs into a would-be adventurer, He tells them his favorite story of the time he and his party took down a group of fire giants completely in the nude. The end. This next tale was sent in by the McDougal-Pate cohort. This is a story of some brand new heroes on their very first adventure, and they're a little too eager to fight some bad guys. This is The Massacre of the Twig Blights. Once upon a time, some very new adventurers are working on one of their very first quests. They had been sent to an old abandoned village to search for a missing wizard named Erno, and they are just brimming with excitement. In our party, we have Greya, a dwarf cleric with a giant warhammer who likes to think of herself as a total badass. Colton Tyler, a young, very huge, and very strong human fighter. Moira, the beautiful elf wizard, and Bree, the cunning elf ranger. The group make their way towards the village, arms at the ready. They're keeping their eyes open for any sign of movement. And it isn't long before they're attacked by a group of goblins. They fight bravely, taking out goblins one by one until there's only a single goblin left. They watch as he runs to hide behind a tree in fear. The group decides they need to find out who sent these goblins and how they found them. Moira volunteers to take him down so they can interrogate him. She steps forward and casts magic missile at the only remaining goblin. And it's a critical hit. The rest of the party runs around the tree to grab him and find a very dead goblin. Greya says,
"Moira, you weren't supposed to kill him."
Moira crosses her arms and says,
"Hey, it's not my fault he was a weakling."
Colton Tyler rolls his eyes and Bree just puts her face in her hand. So far, this adventure is off to a great start. When they get to the village, they find a ghost town. Homes stand empty, shops and stalls are boarded up, and the streets are deserted. Mostly. As they make their way through the town, they notice some of the bushes seem to be moving. And I don't mean in the normal wind-blowy way. They go in for a closer look and are suddenly under attack. Turns out, they weren't bushes at all. They're Twig Blights. Now, Twig Blights are basically shrubbery turned monster. They're evil little trees that can pull up their roots and run around. Normally they can't talk, but the ones in this village can. They let out a war cry as they charge at our heroes. Greya pulls out her warhammer and just starts smashing one into toothpicks. Colton Tyler jumps on another and starts ripping it to pieces with his bare hands. Moira is casting some hard-hitting spells, and Bree is shooting arrows at an unbelievable speed. In a matter of minutes, the Twig Blights are completely obliterated. The group keep their weapons up, slowly walking through the streets, ready for another attack at any moment. And it turns out, this was a good decision. This time. Out of nowhere, 3 giant spiders come crawling at them from around the corner. The group fights them off for a few minutes before realizing they're outmatched. They make the decision to run, and they dash down the street and throw open the door of the first house they come to. They rush inside and slam the door behind them. They all take a minute to try and catch their breath, when suddenly, Colton Tyler screams,
"Twig Blights!"
The heroes quickly turn to see the fighter running at a corner packed full of cowering Twig Blights. He starts just beating the crap out of these creatures, and the rest of the party isn't far behind. They're all just throwing everything they have at these terrified creatures as they scream for mercy.
No, please! We were just hiding from the spiders! What's trying to run away from you? These spiders keep singing! We're not even fighting back, you monsters!
The heroes keep hitting these Twig Blights long after they've all stopped moving. When they're finally happy with the carnage before them, they do a few high fives and congratulate each other on literally killing it at this adventuring thing. They continue waiting inside the house until they're sure the spiders are gone, and then they continue on their search for the wizard. They start going house to house looking inside for more blights to massacre or any sign of Erno. Finally, they come across a house that seems to be occupied. Just as they go to peek in the window, a man comes running towards them screaming,
Hey! What are you doing?
Our heroes instantly do what they do best. They attack him. They're all swinging at him, shooting off spells, loosing arrows. Finally, he falls to the ground and cries out,
Why are you doing this?
Colton Tyler says,
We're looking for Erno. Where is he?
The poor guy says weakly,
I am Erno.
Everyone stops hitting him. Bree looks down and says,
Ooh, sorry about that.
Erno lays on the ground bleeding, his breath getting more and more labored until finally he takes his last breath and succumbs to his injuries. And that's the story of how one group of heroes accidentally murdered the person they were sent to save. The end. Thanks for listening. To submit a fail, email me at bedtimefairyfails@gmail.com or message me on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram as Bedtime FairyFails and Twitter as BT FairyFails.